Hey, what's going on, guys? It's BrainBean here again, back with another keyboard comparison video for you. So with Cooler Master putting out the MK850 a couple of days ago, I wanted to do sort of a head-to-head comparison between the MK850 and the MK750 to kind of show you what the changes are. And for those of you that might already have a 750 and be looking to upgrade, or maybe you just want to know if it's worth the extra money if you're looking at picking up a new keyboard, we're going to do a quick comparison to talk about what's new with the MK850. So starting with just the overall aesthetics and design, you can already tell by going from the 750 to the 850 that things changed a pretty good amount. So the MK750 has sort of a more minimalistic design. The footprint of the keyboard is fairly small, and the backplate is made of just a nice matte aluminum. And the keyboard itself is no bigger than it has to be. It's just a regular, small, minimalistic design. When we move over to the MK850, it does have this really beautiful brushed aluminum backplate that I think looks really nice, but you can immediately notice that the keyboard has a much more aggressive look to it. The footprint of the keyboard is much larger than the MK750, and it has these sort of contoured sides to it that, while they do look cool and sort of give it some angular personality, it does make the actual footprint of the keyboard much bigger. Now the MK850 is heavier than the MK750 as well, but in terms of flex, they're both about the same. Now moving on to the wrist rests. Now both of these keyboards do come with pretty nice padded magnetic wrist rests, but the wrist rest on the MK750 is a good deal smaller than the one on the 850. And the most noticeable difference is that the MK750's wrist rest is about an inch thinner than the MK850's. Now this is important if you guys have big hands or long fingers, because you'll find that when you use a pretty narrow wrist rest, you may not even be able to have your hands rest or your wrist rest on that wrist rest depending on how long your fingers are. And with the 850, it largely reduces that problem. Now for me personally, I found that the MK750's wrist rest was just far too small for my hands, and the MK850's just felt much nicer. And another thing that's worth mentioning is the magnets on the 750's wrist rests are a good amount weaker than the 850's as well. If you pick up the MK750, the wrist rest will just fall off. If you pick up the MK850's, the magnets will actually stay attached and you can pick it up all as one solid piece. In terms of lighting, both keyboards are fairly similar. They do both feature a wraparound light bar that goes down the sides as well as the front of the keyboard. Now my gripe here with both of these keyboards is that if you do have the wrist rest attached, you can't see that light bar at the front of the keyboard, which is kind of a bummer. But overall, the amount of preset lighting effects and those sort of things are pretty much the same, as the software is mostly identical. You can do a little bit more with the 850 as far as the amount of preset effects and layering the effects goes. But in terms of the overall brightness and permeability of the lighting, they both use Cherry MX RGB switches, so you're still going to get pretty much the same lighting experience. Now the wraparound light bars on the MK850 are a little bit more vibrant. You'll notice that on the 750, they're kind of dim and underpronounced, and unless you're really looking for it, especially on the front, you may not even really notice it's there. On the 850 though, you do get a little bit more pronounced look. It's a little bit more vibrant, and you can certainly see it from anywhere around the room when you're looking at the desk. Now speaking of the switches, I mentioned these both use Cherry MX RGB switches, but it's important to talk about the difference in the switch types that are offered in each board. The MK750 is available in Cherry MX blues, brown, and reds, so it's great that you get a switch type for everybody, whether it's clicky or linear or tactile. And when you come over to the 850, one of my biggest disappointments with this board in particular was that it's only offered in Cherry MX red switches. Now the reason for that is because the 850 comes with Cooler Master's new aim pad technology, which essentially works like an analog keyboard where you can basically have it be pressure sensitive, and so the farther down you depress a key will essentially work like a joystick, and so as you depress that key down a little bit, it will move your character forward. And so if you press it down a little bit, you'll move slowly, and the farther down you press it, it'll sort of accelerate from there. Now it's great for things like racing games or battle royales or things where pinpoint control is important. Now if you guys want to learn more about that, I will link down below to my full review of the 850 where we go into the aim pad technology a little bit more. But the main reason for the Cherry MX Reds is that because it's a linear switch, it just sort of facilitates that type of technology better. So unfortunately, you won't be able to get Cherry MX Blues or Browns on the MK850. Now, in terms of extras, there are quite a bit more extras packed into the MK850. Now, one thing Cooler Master's always been really good about is including a good amount of extras with their keyboards. The MK750 comes with 9 PBT purple keycaps. You'll get a set for the Aero cluster, for WASD, and for the escape key. You also get a nice wired keycap puller, which is something I've always appreciated that Cooler Master does because they don't scratch up the keys like those crappy plastic ones do. And it's just a nice thing to include because it can't cost them that much more to throw this in the box. And I really wish that a lot more companies did include nicer keycap pullers. And again, you also get the magnetic detachable wrist rest. And so it's a decent amount of healthy extras that come with the 750. Now, when we move over to the 850, obviously you get the much bigger, beefier wrist rest. You get 18 PBT keycaps. You'll get a set for the Aero cluster and the escape key, just like with the 750. But you'll also get a set for Q, W, E, R, A, S, D, and F, which are all of the aimpad enabled keys. And then you'll also get a set for the 5 dedicated macro keys on the left side of the board, which is another extra that you get with the 850 is the set of 5 dedicated macro keys that you won't find with the MK750. Now, both of these keyboards do have dedicated media keys. The 750 is going to have a set of RGB enabled media keys just above the number pad, and on the 850 there's actually a dedicated set of media keys at the top center of the board. Now, the 850 also offers 2 programmable metal scroll wheels up at the top. They default to volume control and brightness control. The brightness control one for me feels a little bit gimmicky because it's not a smooth transition between the brightness, and you still do feel kind of the steps to it, but there's no tactile steps to kind of let you know as you're scrolling it when you actually use it. Now, if you reprogram these, then it would be kind of nice and advantageous, especially if you use it for, photo editing or things like that to play with sliders. It would be kind of nice. And above the number pad on the 850 is actually your aim pad on the fly control. So you can set the sensitivity for the pressure of the keys on the fly, and that is why you don't have the media keys over the number pad on the 850. And lastly, the MK850 gives you 2 USB pass-throughs in the back of the board that the MK750 does not have. So talking about the overall price of both keyboards, the MK750 right now on Amazon is going for between $125 to $140 depending on the switch type. The MK850 is coming in at a whopping $200 right now, so it's definitely sort of geared to be the flagship product that's coming in at a very premium price. Now, I don't necessarily think that the $200 price point is unfair for the 850 because it is a very quality keyboard, but it's certainly worth considering all of these things when trying to choose a keyboard, because if you don't necessarily think you're going to take advantage of the aimpad technology, or maybe you don't necessarily need all of the flashy extras, the MK750 is a very high quality keyboard that you guys have seen in my top 5 keyboards of 2018 video, and so they're both great keyboards, and it's a matter of deciding if the features that come in the 850 warrant the extra $75 or so. And so with that, hopefully you guys will be able to make a decision. But anyways, guys, that's it for my quick comparison between the MK750 and the MK850. If I left anything out, please let me know down in the comments below. And while you're down there, if you enjoyed this video, give it a like to show your support. If you're new here on the channel, I'd love to see you subscribe, because I've got a lot more videos like this coming for you in the near future. And be sure to follow me on Twitter at BrainBean Gaming. Right now, I'm giving away 6,700 Apex Legends coins on my Twitter account, so be sure to check that out and enter to win that giveaway. Well, that's it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.